Hi everybody, I'm Dr. John Douillard, and today I want to talk about hiccups, those pesky diaphragmatic spasms that usually are nothing more than a nuisance for most people, but actually can be a very severe concern for many people. So there's been a lot of research on how to cure hiccups, and we've all heard of the latest, greatest hiccup cure, drinking a glass of water through a napkin, or drinking it from the far side, or drinking it while bending over, or standing on your head upside down. And I mean, the list of techniques to help you cure your hiccups just goes on and on and on. Well, interestingly, a study in the Journal of American Medicine Network just published found that there was a technique that has been shown to be 92% effective in curing your hiccups, right? Because most of the techniques we use, these home remedies, I mean, by the time you figure out how to get the water and do it all just right or look it up, the hiccups usually go away. But people who have chronic hiccups, this can be a great solution. Now, interestingly, Ayurveda talked about hiccups. They called it hiccuroga, which is this diaphragmatic spasm that can become a real nuisance. And they talked about reasons why it would happen. And some of those things include overeating or over drinking, and particularly over drinking alcohol. It's been shown from eating too fast or fasting too frequently. Over exercise was a concern. Bad air, dusty air pollution was considered a cause. Irregular meal times, eating at different times a day, and too much spicy or raw food. These are all written in the Ayurvedic text Charaka, which is the 2,500-year-old Ayurvedic text. And they talked about hiccups and how to fix them and what the cause of them is. The cause, they said, was a Vata Kapha imbalance. The Kapha is seated in your lungs, the Vata is seated in your gut. And when the gut air pushes up against the diaphragm in the lungs, it creates a diaphragmatic spasm. I've written a lot about the diaphragm and how important breathing is. And most people don't have a diaphragm that's working effectively. That makes lots of folks more vulnerable or prone to diaphragmatic spasms. One of the causes of this kind of Vata pushing up against Kapha imbalance is called Udvarta, which we talked about as upward moving Vata or upward moving digestion, where the stomach gets pushed up against the diaphragm over a long period of time, lots of times during pregnancies, and for sure as we get older, this becomes way more prevalent, and it can cause the diaphragm to not be able to contract because it's contracting through, pushing on a stomach, which is sort of in the way. And therefore the diaphragm can't contract completely, fully the way it should. Sitting will do a lot of that. When you sit a lot, we are slouched forward. The rib cage gets jammed into the front of the abdomen. Diaphragm gets pushed into an already contracted position, so it can't fully contract to pull the air down and fully open up the rib cage. And over time, the diaphragm is fully relaxing and contracting 26,000 times a day. Starts to do this half thing. And then when you don't use muscles the way they should, they start to twitch or go into spasms, or things like that begin to happen. So that's something that causes the hiccups and can cause real problems. So that's sort of really interesting. The other piece of the puzzle is just poor digestion. Digestive issues like poor, processed foods, oils that congest the liver, like the polyunsaturated fatty acids that are bleached, boiled, and deodorized, the safflower, sunflower, cooked canola oils, all these oils that are not digestible, not palatable by our microbiome. These oils that the bugs won't eat go to your liver, they congest your liver, they create bile sludge, no bile. No digestive acid, right? Because your stomach makes acid that has to be neutralized by the bile, and if you don't have a good bile, your stomach over time will not make the acid. It'll hold on to the food longer than it should, push up against the diaphragm, and give you the hiccups. So therefore, you can get your glass of water, drink it from the far side, or bend over, or whatever it is, or you can do this technique that they talked about in the Journal of American Medicine, which is a pretty prestigious journal to be writing articles about hiccup cures. So it's quite serious, and it was 92% effective. So the technique is really simple. There's a technique that they call it forced inspiratory suction and swallowing tool. So they have a tool. You go to my website at LifeSpa.com and you can type in hiccups, and that article will pop up. It's right on my homepage now, and you can read the article about hiccups and all the science behind it. And also there's a link to actually where you can buy that tool. And it's a technique where you actually do forced suction and swallowing, and that's sort of the magic key. It's almost like if you take one of those little those thin plastic coffee straws that you get at a coffee shop or something, and you sip through that, and then you swallow what you drink. So you're really sucking through something that requires a lot of force. That's the forced suction, and then followed by swallowing. So if you can't if you don't want to buy the tool on Amazon or whatever, you find this forced inspiratory suction and swallowing tool, you can just get a coffee straw and suck really hard and then swallow. And that combination of sucking forces the diaphragm to contract, and that also causes and the swallowing causes the epiglottis to also close. And that's the magic combination to actually reverse your hiccups. Now, in Ayurvedic medicine, the technique is called pratiloma. It's in Western medicine, this technique, the exercise they use for strengthening the diaphragm is called inspiratory muscle training. It's used for heart failure, lung failure, recently approved for COVID, used for heartburn, GERD, reflux. All these conditions have been well studied. I have an article called Breathe Away Your Heartburn, another article called Strengthen Your Lungs Now, Pratiloma. Go to my website at LifeSpa.com, click on those articles and watch the video of how to do the actual Ayurvedic 2,000-year-old technique that actually shows you how to strengthen your diaphragm. And it's really smart and really super simple. You just partially close your nostrils, and that creates resistance, and you take a maximum breath in all the way to the tippy top, and that forces your diaphragm to contract. And open up your nostrils, let the air out. So it's 10 to 30 of these deep, all the way in, maximal inhalation, pratiloma inhales followed by an exhale. When you partially close the nostrils, you create resistance, makes your diaphragm work that extra hard, which it needs to fully re-educate and re-establish its ability to contract and relax fully. If you have good diaphragmatic function, generally speaking, you don't get hiccups. So anyway, kind of a fun article this week about hiccups, but again, more roads lead to the efficiency and quality of our breath, right? That's the thing. If we stop doing it, we die pretty quickly. And this is why breathing and having, your radar on how to breathe is so critically important. And read my articles on breathing and pranayama and breath holding and all that. So much information there you got to read at LifeSpa.com. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard.